What's up, everybody, and welcome to One Man's Opinion. And today we're talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, The Golden Wind. This could potentially be the last JoJo's video that I make if this one doesn't do very well. I've had success with some other videos recently, and I don't believe my last JoJo's video got a whole lot of views or reactions. And so if you do like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you like to hear reviews or thoughts about the seasons as they come out, I think we got another one coming in December. If you do like that stuff, be sure to comment, be sure to like, be sure to try to react a little bit, do something, so that way I know that there is at least a little bit. Look, I don't make money doing this, so if I just have just a little bit of reactions to these kind of videos, then I'll keep doing them. It doesn't have to be much. I don't have to hit a certain like goal or anything stupid like that. Just to know that there's a few people out there that enjoy this sort of content is good enough for me. So if you do like it, let me know down in the comments, or just drop a like, something small, something simple, and I'll appreciate it. Golden Wind is kind of a mixed bag for me. There are things that I like about it. There are things that I don't like about it. In comparison to Part 4, there are things that I like a lot more about Part 5, and then there are things that I don't like as much. And so I guess I'll just kind of pull a name out of a hat, just kind of grab one of the things that I've been thinking on a little bit and talk about it. Number one, I guess the easiest thing to talk about is the animation, which I think is a step up from Part 4. In Part 4, things were colored really funny, and I didn't really care for the color scheme of Part 4, but in Part 5, things look at least a little bit more realistic. Now, you still don't have the hulking, massive men that you had in the first 3 parts, but I'm okay with not having that. I do miss it a little bit. I think it was part of the charm of JoJo's, but I'm fine with what we have here. The animation looks good, and so I would say definitely a bump up from Part 4. I like the animation in Part 5 a little bit more. One of the things that I don't like quite as much is our JoJo in this story, Giorno. It's almost not even his story, really. He almost feels like a side character, or at least a main character alongside a group of main characters. It doesn't feel like it's his story. I would say, if anything, Golden Wind feels more like it's Bucciarati's story. Bucciarati, to me, has a more interesting story. He has a more interesting character arc. His close brushes with death and then finally finding his demise at the very, very end, I think is a really, really good story. I think Bucciarati is amazing in this story. The story focuses on a smaller group of people. It seemed like in Part 4, you had a lot of people who were constantly kind of in and out of the story. And yeah, you kind of had your main group of heroes, but it was like every episode was adding somebody else who might pop in randomly here or there. Like, there were too many stories that were going on in Part 4. Some of them didn't get enough attention. Some of them got more attention than I would have liked to have seen. But Part 5 did a really good job of getting our heroes together and putting together a really good story. You still had new characters that were introduced throughout, new villains, new heroes, and good progression, but ultimately, all in all, it focused on our main heroes. And so I would say that from a storytelling point of view, I prefer Golden Wind. However, when we're talking about our main character, JoJo, I think Josuke is a better character. I liked Josuke a lot better. To me, he had more personality. To me, it was more his story. Giorno in Part 5 almost feels like a background character. His skill sets are not that impressive. And I know Golden Wind Requiem is amazing. So much so that even Giorno doesn't know what Golden Wind Requiem is capable of. And you'll have to bear with me. For some reason, I get a little tongue-tied when I try to say Golden Wind Requiem. And so if it gets tongue-tied in there a little bit, you'll just have to bear with me on that one. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. His abilities are not as fun. It didn't grab me. It didn't grab me as much as Josuke's story does. Aside from that, there were parts of the story that did feel a little unfinished, particularly at the very beginning. You had Koichi show up talked to Jotaro a little bit, and it felt like Koichi was going to be a little bit more of the story, someone to kind of tag along with Giorno. I thought he was going to get kind of caught up in it, and I really was excited about that little bit of a bridge between Part 4 and Part 5, but Koichi just kind of disappears. He doesn't really get involved. He kind of watches Giorno a little bit and then decides, okay, this guy's not dangerous. He's okay. And then he goes away. I thought for sure he would get sucked into the conflict, but he never does, and that was a little disappointing. Also a little disappointing is how disconnected this one feels from the other parts. Part 4 felt that way a lot too, but at least you had Jotaro there to kind of bridge the gap. But you had Koichi at the very beginning, and then Part 5 was really its own thing. And I think that had its benefits, and I think it had its detriments. I really want to see Jotaro and Josuke and Giorno and just, the Joestar family unite for one big fight. And I can't be the only one who feels that way. I guess what I'm trying to say is that part of me was really excited to hopefully see some of those people come together, and not getting that sucks. It really scares me. Seeing Jotaro at the beginning leads me to believe that in future parts down the road, Jotaro will continue to make appearances, which I'm happy about, but I also miss Jotaro a lot, and I hope that Josuke isn't thrown to the side. I hope we haven't seen the last of Josuke. While Part 4 was probably my least favorite part since Part 1, I still like Josuke a lot. I still like Josuke more than I do Giorno. Pound for pound, 4 and 5 were very comparable to me. There were certainly positives and negatives to both of them, which is why I keep bringing up 4. To me, 3 was the best. I like 2 a lot too. But 4 and 5 are hard. It's a tough debate for me because I like Josuke so much better than I do Giorno. But I think the story for Part 5 is better than I do Part 4, and I like the animation better. So all things considered, it's hard for me to tell you which one I prefer. If I had to watch one again, right now I would probably watch Part 4 again, but only because I just finished 5 a few days ago. And in a year from now, it may be 5 that I'd rather watch. So it's a tough call to make, but I think there are pros and cons to both of them. Of course, I couldn't go the whole thing without mentioning how awesome it was to see Polnareff again. I thought that was a really cool cameo. So we do have other tie-ins to the other seasons. I understand that. I think part of me is just hoping for a Joestar family reunion. Also, I thought the fact that Giorno was Dio's son would have come into play a little bit more. I kept expecting him to have a moment where he got really, really angry and kind of snapped a little bit and had to reel himself in. He's a very composed, intelligent young man, but I thought that there would be some underlying darkness to him somewhere, some sort of demon that he had to battle. But he was almost too perfect a character. He was almost flawless in that he didn't really have any serious character flaws. When it came down to it, he was either taken out of the story immediately so that he couldn't be the one who solved the problem, or he always just solved the problem. He always just had the answers. Almost a little too easy for my taste. And so I didn't think there was enough conflict with Giorno. Again, and I'll say this, and I guess this will be kind of where I leave it. This season's strengths stay with the group of heroes, Bucciarati and company, that we have. The story that is told is a really, really good story. I love the whole mafia angle. I love them trying to work their way to the top of the mafia so that they can kind of rule over it and get rid of selling drugs to women and children. The fact that they still have this ambition to kind of rule over the mafia and rule over the area is pretty cool, but the fact that they want to do it in a more honorable, respectful way, I think it's a really cool angle. I think it's a really cool story. I would say that my final complaint would come off the back of that, and that would be the head of the mafia, the villain. Crimson Emperor, he's just another villain with time control abilities, and I'm sick of seeing villains with time control abilities. I hope Part 6 brings in something different. And I know it's a really good villain power, but it was a really good villain power when Dio did it. and then I don't need to see it again. I don't need to see it after that, and I don't care how many variations. Oh, Dio could stop time. Emperor Crimson could take a piece of time out of existence and could skip forward ahead in time. It's the same. It's essentially the same thing. It's basically he would move through time while someone else did not have the ability to do that. Though I will say the ending, the way Emperor Crimson goes out, the fact that he's like never really gonna die and he's just gonna suffer for eternity in his own little like private hell where he's powerless, that is dark and I love it. I think that's one of the craziest, like most sadistic endings to a villain who certainly like deserved that sort of ending, but it's almost like, wow, that is harsh, man. What a harsh punishment to delve out to anybody. But having said all that, I did like Part 5 a lot. Certainly enjoyed it. I think I would say I had more fun with Part 5 than Part 4. So you can do with that what you want. I think Part 5 was more fun to watch than Part 4, even though I wasn't a huge fan of the main character or the main villain. Everything else in between was really, really good and really well done. Having said all that, I'm giving JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind an 81 overall. Alright, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know if you want me to continue covering JoJo's or other anime topics. I said in my last video where I was talking about Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball GT that I would, in all likeliness, be doing a video on how to do an evil Goku a better way, because I hated Goku Black, and I hated Zamasu, and I hated that whole story arc in Dragon Ball Super. So if that's something that interests you, let me know about that down in the comments below. And if you disagreed with me and you loved Golden Wind, you thought it was perfect and there were no flaws and I'm an idiot, or maybe you hated it and everything that I bragged on about the series was garbage and I shouldn't talk about Golden Wind in such a positive way, let me know down in the comments below. Just don't get mad. Remember, this is just one man's opinion. Thanks.